Welcome to Advaita Vedanta Satsang House. So we have, today is Friday and today is Bhagavad Gita discussions day. So if you have any questions, clarifications or opinions that you want to discuss with Bindoji, please come up and start the conversation. And this will last for about an hour and a half. And on Sunday, we'll have the follow-up Advaita discussion, which is more open discussion. For all the replays, you can catch them on Clubhouse, or you can get all the recorded versions on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and there is also a book that has been published by Artemisia, which is based on Bindoji's approach to Advaita. It's called The Imaginary Door. That's available on Amazon. The link is provided. And with that, over to you, Bindoji. Let's start the discussion.
Prakash, Venkat, you wanted to discuss on 2 days back. You said you will keep it for Friday. If there are no questions, should I start third chapter? In that case, we will cancel all the Friday Q&A for Gita.
Yes, we can do that and have all the discussions on Sunday, Bindoji.
Yeah. What do others say? Because they had not announced the third chapter to those people who are not having questions. They may think that today I won't go to the third chapter. So I don't want them to miss out.
Yes.
That also is there.
Yes, that's true.
Because some of them have told me that they will come only on the Monday now. They're traveling, etc. So,
Okay. I think people are just warming up. Maybe in a minute or so,
yeah.
somebody will come up. Yes.
Most of the Jai is saying my questions are already destroyed. Thank you, Jai. I think I'll go to third chapter.
Bindoji, instead we could, because you said the chapter 2 is the foundation for all the following chapters, the clarity through which chapter 2 navigates how Krishna is transmitting his wisdom to Arjuna. So maybe we can do a summary of that in this room. If
Was it not that what I did yesterday?
Yes, but I think listening to you again in a different, set of, not as a culmination of chapter 2, but as a summary, And I think actually what you should do is We should do a Q&A of people who are they really listening to what you're saying.
If I start doing that, I think half of the people who are listening will vanish.
I think it takes time for people to absorb, right? So it should not take time in this case. It's either you.
Yeah.
Yes. I still
I
have
want
a,
to... Go ahead.
I still have a lingering, not a doubt, but I keep listening to how you interpret manana. When you say Sravana, manana. Sravana is to listen without preconceived notions, and actually the statement as it is given, with the context of what is being provided. How do manana how do you define it clearly, Bindoji?
See, even Shravana is not only you are listening from outside, because there is an overlap between Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana, right? In the sense that when you listen to the first time, as all listening, here also what happens is that there is never 100% listening possible. Mind being what it is, will definitely deviate in between with the tendencies we have in our mind. And when that is being taken away, mind is being taken away, even though the ears are listening, there will be a gap. Sometimes it will be small, momentary. Sometimes it will be longer. So what happens is that we won't be able to remember and recollect without an aid of either a book or an audio about what we have listened in 1 hour of a lecture. And invariably, the second time when you are either reading the book, the translation, or listening to the audio, there also what happens is that our mind is not fixated on the subject which we are reading. Because this subject being non-tangible in nature, or rather esoteric in nature, what happens is that the attention of mind is very, very limited. Unlike we are reading a crime thriller or a, love story or things like that in a book, the mind gets engaged in that because there is a what we call connection between the previous and the upcoming topics. In this case, what happens in the esoteric learning, what is happening is that there is not much variation we can bring in to keep the mind entertained. Mind needs variety, whereas that variety is not there in this esoteric learning, what we are doing as a spiritual learning. So it is very difficult for a person to remain committed and attached to the topic. This is aided by the tendency of the person, how much inclined and he or she is able to, shut off the distractions which is springing up in the mind. I remember when my earlier days when I was reading the, initial books like complete works of Vivekananda and the Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, etc., small booklets. I took even more than a day to even complete about 5-10 pages. Whereas the same time, those days I was also reading novels like Perry Mason, James Hadley Chase, Frederick Forsyth, etc. And there I used to finish a book in one day. So I found that why this happening to me? And that is the time I realized that to keep interested in what I am reading on the spiritual subject, I need to train my mind, because the mind looks for, entertainment. So initially what I did was shifting between books, but of the same nature. Sometimes I read, Vivekananda. Sometimes I used to read Swami Chinmayananda. Sometimes I used to read Swami Krishnananda's books. But subject is the weighing, but the methodology of deliverance was widely different between each of those masters. Over a period, I was able to increase the duration of adherence to one subject. And then that is the time when I realized that just reading alone doesn't make me understand the subject in the intended manner in which the master, the teacher, whoever is there, is trying to tell. I should not derive my own assumptions. This is what he meant. That is the time when I started spending more time in slow reading, sentence by sentence, and connecting the sentences. Because one thing which was very clear to me at that time was the previous sentence and the next sentence has connection which is there in the mind of the speaker, of course, which has come in the form of a book to me, but his mind, how it is working to develop the thought in the subject. That I found the variation between each one of them. That was the entertainment for my mind. Even though the subject was more or less same, I could peep into the mind of all of them, because I trained myself to connect the sentences in the thought flow in which they have been talking, which made me also develop a pattern of remaining in the subject, at the same time expanding my vision on the subject, how it will pertain or apply to me. This aspect of the subject being relevant and applied, how I can apply to my own thinking, acting, reacting, all those aspects of my nature is what we can call it as a process of mananam. That's only a beginning. But then you have to master it as and when you develop the skill for doing that. When we hear live classes, the problem for us is that the mind will not be sticking to the subject, the topic very well. Some people have got the habit of writing down that point by point. That's a good habit to, keep the mind focused on the subject. But some people would like to listen, or some will be listening it and doing some other work either on the laptop or in the kitchen or in the driving or things like that, which obviously will definitely give gaps in between. That is why listening to the replay will fill the gaps where you have missed out. But the manana aspect is possible only when you are committed to it and developing the habit of seeing the intended meaning in what you are listening. Listening means reading or listening, both. That time one side you are listening or reading, and simultaneously you are also developing the skill to, expand your own mind and applicability. Later what happens is that a sentence or a tip or a suggestion is enough for you to delve into the same subject again. You don't need to read or listen again because that has become part and parcel of you. That when it happens is the second stage, or the latter portion of mananam is happening. Still, there is a dependency or some trigger, either a mantra from a Upanishad or a statement or any kind of either sound or topic or something like that will need for you to get into the mood of analyzing that. This comes only after if you have completed the first aspect of applicability to yourself. And as this matures, you don't need subsequently any external stimuli for doing it. Your own mind can churn out the mantras of the Upanishad or the words of the, person like Aurobindo or Nisargadatta Maharaj or Ramana Maharshi, which you have read and you remember it, you can pull it from your mind. And that time you will be getting into the mood or the mental ambience whereby you start to develop a kind of serenity within yourself or a tranquility within yourself. And when this happens, you will find that to dwell that into more and more is much more, fruitful, and you will start doing it every now and then. Whenever you have a freedom to do that, you will engage into that. This is what brings you into the third stage of Nididhyasana. As and when this aspect develops more and more, better will be your own conviction about what you have now applied as your own experience or your own, feeling towards the meanings of those statements. And the culmination will happen when that becomes an unchallengeable or not able to destabilize yourself from the conviction which you are arriving at. Thereafter, you won't be needing any trigger or anything. You will be living those words every moment or every experience. You will be engaged in the world. But even when engaged in the world, you know that you are what? Which has become your part and parcel of your true nature. The identification which we hold, as Anu was telling, no, I cannot forget I am Anu or I am the body. No, that type of thing will be easier for us not to associate. But that will be there, just as we don't have to remember every time we are a human being, no. But we act as a human beings only. But we are the human nature, the human physiology of ours is that of the body, but not of ours. And the body is an object known to me. Therefore, I am not a human being. That will become, these type of thoughts will keep on, swinging up and down until you will fixate yourself in the true awareness of that I am, that consciousness or the awareness, and transaction which is happening in my waking is that of the waker associated with the body. With the body has the mind, intellect, etc. of the waker. The same body, when it is associating with the dreamer, it becomes a dreamer. When both of them are subsiding, I do not know where I am. I have no knowledge of anything external, but at the same time, I know I am. There is no name or form or anything which we can attribute to that. That doesn't take us away from the experience of again waker and dreamer coming. When it is happening, we are still clear that we are not the waker, but the waker experience is part of the awareness itself. And that is not a reality, because what is not remaining as unchangeable is my awareness, or the awareness with which I can say it is I am the awareness. But the awareness as a waker is replaced by the awareness as a dreamer and that of a deep sleeper. So therefore, I am neither the waker nor the dreamer nor the deep sleeper. But I am that awareness which is aware of waking, dream and deep sleep experiences going through. I don't have to be associated with it. Let the experiences happen. We are experiencing the waker going through the waking experience. That will not prohibit us from being adhered to, abiding with the knowledge of awareness as the true nature. It is not that we are going to disown the waker, disown the dreamer, disown the deep sleeper, but they will be the expressions of the awareness, but not I am the waker or I am the dreamer or I am the deep sleeper. So this is the process from Shravana and Manana and Nididhyasana. And that culmination is possible only in the waking, because waking is the place where we have the logic, the methodology of doing this listening, Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. We may do the Shravana in the dream. We may be attending some Swamiji's lecture or some this thing in the world. But there the Manana Nididhyasana aspect is not possible, because the Buddhi which is required there is not present in the dream. It is more of an experiential mind, which is the emotions and feelings and thoughts. but not the logic and analytical portion of it. Deep sleep, anyway, there is nothing which we can do about it. So that is why this is required for the waker. Because waker is the one which is thinking, I am the one who is a waker, and I had a dream, waker had a dream, waker had gone into deep sleep. No, that is not the reality. This has to be done by a progressing way from Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. Once it is affirmed, you don't have to do anything. You are here and now become a Sthita Prajna. Namaste Srini.
To see which is the sequence I should ask. Maybe we'll try. Maybe first question only will answer all the three questions. So first thing I wanted to ask was on Monday when you talked about vigilance, right? It was very. I had it was very easily understandable, and the whole thing about basically how the Sthita Prajna is also a vigilant, right? I think that is that the right understanding of the Mondays, whatever in the QA we discussed.
Sthita Prajna is not only vigilant, but he is also established in the reality. But he is vigilant in the sense that he doesn't want to be carried away by the waker experience for him to be dethroned from his abidance in the self. To that extent, he will not allow the sense organs and the sense to, fool him and to make him feel that, there is a reality, something other than that. That is the vigilance which is that of the Sthita Prajna.
Yeah. So then what I was thinking is there are various milestones or bhumikas, what they call, right? Like from Karma Yoga to Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, and even now you explained different kinds of milestones, kind of thing. But these milestones, what I was thinking is these are not really milestones in sequentially or progressively, what you mentioned. That sequence, how it gets established is this thing, right? Because fundamentally the final prajna or bodha that happens, that is more like I don't know, for lack of better word, a lightning or something, if we say, just like a spark or something. So these bhumikas are retrospectively constructed by the guru or jnani person, or how these bhumikas, or is it just because also, of course, Shruti Pramana is there, right? Shruti also gives certain bhumikas kind of thing. So what do you think? Because definitely they are in the Adhyaropa kind of aspect, right? When we talk about these milestones.
Yeah, see, Adhyaropa, Apavada is a method. There is affirmation and negation. That is both sides possible. Before that, the bhumika or the yardstick, what you are talking about, has to be developed by the individuals themselves. Because the Upanishad or the Shastra or the Guru can talk from his own experience or his point of view or in a general term. Iti Shushruма Purvesham, like how that this is how I have been taught. And that is the only way this can be taught, so I am also repeating the same. But he also had his own bhumika or the yardsticks with which he has tested that statement that, or like that, what the teacher has been teaching, that how relevant it is, how applicable it is. All those things are the yardsticks which he has been developing on this. So these things cannot be generalized. Even though I have answered to Prakash as what is the manana, but the manana cannot be seen exclusively as manana. That is why I had to start with Shravana, because they're all overlapping in nature. And this yardsticks which we apply for listening is different from that of, subsequent when we are doing, a recursive thinking in our own mind. Why from the memory, where we are not listening externally to or reading anything externally. So there also we have to develop a yardstick depending upon what has been the key phrases which has given you what you said, the flash, etc. But that won't remain with us. The flash is only that the momentary, your doubt and ignorance or the misapprehension has gone for a moment. But without your own knowledge, it has come back because that is residual in the mind. So the flash is not something which has come from outside. It is only when your doubt got cleared for a moment, you felt that experience of your own awareness. But soon enough, because of the nature in which mind is operating, the mind throws up doubts and inhibitions, etc. to us, so that we are back to square one. Now, these things can be reduced only when we become more and more adhering to the, that what happened at that time. What is that gave me that clear picture of what I am? That has to be remembered and relived as much as possible. There questions can come, doubts can come, but you know how to answer it because you know how you have experienced it. So this is the bhumika, or the yardstick, what you are mentioning, has to be individualized by each listener to suiting to their own method. That is why, even though we say the adhikara or the qualification of the listener as in the general term like sadhana chatushtaya, but there the three words, yama, niyama, pratyahara, all those things, uparati, titiksha, all of them are different from each one's mind. That is why it becomes difficult for giving a one pill solution to everyone. What we are doing in the teaching of this by the teachers, or what those who are talking about, are only doing from what they heard and how they have been taught. But what has been developed by my thoughts will reflect in my talking. I may not be parroting my guru, even though the core subject may not change from the things what I have learned from the Upanishads, etc. I cannot parrot my guru because I don't think like him. I think like myself. But what has been beneficial for me will be reflected in my thoughts, my words, and my examples, my explanations. Sometimes some examples are unique, which has struck me by applying this knowledge which I have been, practicing. So those examples will be my own. You may not find it in a textbook or a teaching or anywhere else. But there will be many also which will be common in all this thing, because the books also have spoken some examples. For example, the Rajju Sarpa is a common one. But this one moon, one sun, where there is no other planet, I have not seen it anywhere. So it is something which has come out of my own thought process. This is why each one will have to be developing their own bhumika or yardstick. That is why, Srini, I tell, the more we internalize the teaching, the more easier it will be for us to develop those yardsticks by ourselves. So internalizing the teaching is the most important aspect. It is not a theory or a philosophy to be learned as a book. It is something which need to be practiced within oneself. The Swamshikaranam, the Sanskrit word for it is that internalizing yourself. That is the most important aspect.
Yeah, thank you, Binduji. And then two more things that are coming to my mind is like the shloka where it says Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyana Medhaya Nabahuna Shrutena Tamay Yesha Vrindite Tena Labhyam. So when we refer to those kind of things, so that is where I'm trying to correlate this milestones or this yardsticks kind of thing. Uh, those kind of shlokas imply that there cannot be a yardstick or anything to hold on to, right? For
Yes.
it's only so. So in that sense, one way these yardsticks, yeah, they matter to certain extent, and they have to be left or somehow they disappear, kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. The yardsticks which you are talking about are the general yardsticks which is easily understandable. But that being our common experience, the tendency of the mind to look down upon those yardsticks, not as serious ones, but as a general statement. Everybody sees rope and snake. What is the great thing to talk about it? It is like that if we diminish the importance of such examples or the yardsticks which we have to develop further upon, that tendency to develop our own can come only when you have internalized it. That, the adhyasa is what. Then we should look every time, where is the superimposition taking place in my day-to-day life? We are all knowing that superimposition is there. We are seeing objects, but we are not seeing the reality of the object. We are carried away by the names and forms of it. That itself is a superimposition. But to go beyond the name and the form to the reality of the object is not easily grasped by our mind unless it has to start from within. That is why the Dirdrishya Viveka or the subject-object analysis, whereby my superimposition on my body is the first problem which I am facing. That is the place where we have to start with. Then only we can go to the world external and see that what has been told by the Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad especially, that this world is also a truth of reality, but I have been superimposing them with the names and forms. That knowledge is the most difficult aspect. Seeing the world with the names and forms at the same time, knowing that the world is nothing but Brahman or Satchidananda, what I am also made of. That unless you know who you are, you will not be able to transpose that into the world which you are seeing with the names and forms. Once you know who you are as the knowledge or the awareness or the Sakshi or the Satchidananda, and how you have now identified with the mind, body, intellect as the individuality because of the association of the awareness using the instruments of cognition, perception, and action. They are not me, but my instruments for the functioning of the waker. When we know that, we will be able to extend that body externality of the body to the externality of the world outside also. And then there we will see that the existence of the name and form is not without a substratum. That substratum, like this body existed, is the same for the world of objects outside also. They are also in the same self or the Chidananda or awareness or consciousness, which is the time when Sarvam Khalu Idam Brahma, or Nehana Nasti Kinchana, or Netra Nanya Pasyati Anya Shrunoti Anya Vijanati. All these Upanishadic words will have a meaning to us. That is the process which we have to adopt in this path.
Thank you, Vendaji. My questions are over here.
Thank you, Srini.
So, Binduji, you said Shravana and Manana. There is a clear overlap, right? Shravana, Manana.
Yes, overlap is there.
Yes, I'm just wondering, because when you're listening with previous knowledge, that previous knowledge becomes the canvas in which the Sravana is happening. So do you practice any kind of quiet meditation, or do you practice any kind of strategy? Is there any strategy you use to practice, like quietening the canvas?
In the initial stages, it is very much required, Prakash.
Okay.
That what is to be done, or what at least I have done, is that after listening this one, not as a meditation, but as a mental thinking process, the validity of those statements to me, as if I were awareness, how will it be experienced by me, is to be a thought process in the initial stages, because that was still an external knowledge or an information which I was trying to assimilate. It is not a conditioning or a brainwashing, because it was scientifically and logically analyzed with a skepticism in my mind whether that is possible or not. As and when I was practicing this, a level of acceptance and appreciation to those thought process started developing in me. And more I did, the lesser I had to spend time in the, quietude analyzing these things. The statements, they started making sense and meaning to me by listening and by, hearing my teacher explaining that. For example, this Brihadaranya Upanishad, that it was some 396 lectures, each of 1.5 hours. I have listened to them at least 8 times till now. And I won't mind listening to it and at least 100 times again. Because the joy in listening at that time has now shifted from learning to taking me to that realms where the meanings becomes a reality to me. So all I do is whenever I am having nothing to do for the household chores or outside errands, etc., even when I am having a free time while driving or anything, I am thinking about only those statements or those words which is reverberating in my inner bosom. Virtually speaking, it happens to me without any effort. Whether you call it as abiding in that teachings, I don't know whether you want to call it that way or not. But that is what happens in most of my waking hours.
Thank you, Binduji. Thank you for giving us some deeper insight into your own practice and state of listening. And
Namaste, Binduji.
Namaste, Jai.
Binduji, it's a simple question, but I'll ask if it's welcome, then I'll ask it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so uh, in like when you observe something, when I'm observing, like when I'm waking up, I'm not fully awake yet. If I'm already feeling, or I can observe there are feelings, but to say observe, it's already being felt, like it's already having impact. So my question is about that, like as opposed to being able to watch it, that I'm the watcher and this is happening, it's already like pointing me to sort of this is happening and, like it needs attending. Um, Other than when I'm sitting or I'm, hearing this on my own or reflecting, it's not, I mean, that may be more clear than when things are coming up. And practically, I just wanted to understand what can be done to get back to realizing that this is just something that one is aware of.
You need to, what do you do as a reflection or observing has to take much deeper relevance to you in the sense that you should not remain always the observing nature. That is again a mental, what you call, activity. Either you can call it as a process of observation, thinking about the observation, then observe, then think again. Like that, it will become a routine. But when you are able to do observation, you have to also develop a state of disassociation with it or a detachment with it. Then only the movement towards your own being can develop. Otherwise, you will be always a sakshi or a witness. But you are not a sakshi because sakshi is the initial stages or the witness is the initial stages. That is to develop why are we doing it? To develop a disassociation from the external toward the internal movement. Why should we move from external to internal this thing? Because the only one which is not changing is what is there in the internal thing, internal means from the personal experience point of view. Everything other than that is in space and time, and it has got a beginning and end, and they do not remain permanently the same all the time. So knowing what the definition of truth or the self or Brahman is, that which does not undergo any change. But when you are a witness, what happens is that the witness may not be changing, but it is associated with the changes of the objects which are being observed. It is just like you are using the pole vault, to be example of mine. That pole is required for going across the bar. But that doesn't mean you have to hold on to that. You cannot hold on to that if you want to succeed in the getting across the bar. Or if you are going across a river by a boat, you after crossing the river, you don't need the boat again with you. You don't have to carry it on your head. Something similar is the state of a Sakshi when we are witnessing otherness. And that otherness is to be detached or diminished over a period by turning more towards where does the existence of the Sakshi or the truth of the Sakshi is the Asliyat, kahan par hai, which is the place where you can see that. That should be the movement which you should take place by reducing the dependency on the observation.
Yeah, thank you, Bindu इस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ऑब्जर्वेशन मीनिंग वो दिख रहा है कि हो रहा है, not necessarily like a sakshi who's trying to remain detached. I mean, something can be seen. इसका indication ये है that this is coming up repeatedly, it needs it to be addressed and something needs to be done. Could it also mean that is in the flow and it just doesn't need to be looked at and realize that I need to detach? Is it asking me for some addressal? Because sometimes it's coming on its own, like if you're on a half sleep state, it's a subconscious thing that's requiring you to do something for this. And secondly, even if it requires addressal, I'm only talking about that the disturbance is actually felt as a disturbance, not as a detached thing that I can see it but I'm not affected by it. So even if it needs attending to, then it can still happen in a detached way, but मुझे वो detached होता हुआ नहीं दिख रहा है for one thing or the other, not for other things, but yeah.
Yeah, see, any acknowledgement of otherness, whether it needs attention or doesn't need attention, or whether you can do it detached, is not the criteria. The otherness is only to help you to move internally. The more you are far away from the otherness, the closer you are to your own true nature. A time will come when there is no otherness, because you are not recognizing or you are not giving any validity of those things, because your sense organs and the mind is now fully engrossed or immersed in your own nature, surrounded by the whole world. From your point of view, the whole world, that the otherness of the world has gone to such a far off distance, because you are now turned inward in such a place that whether they exist or not exist is not being acknowledged by you. That is the movement which we do unknowingly in our deep sleep. But knowingly you can do it in your waking, but you are not asleep. That is the time when what we call it as in Hindi we say, no, वो घोड़ा बेच के सो रहा है, so this is घोड़ा बेच के वो जाग रहा है. So that is the difference between the two. He has, having detached everything from that. Sorry for using the Hindi word. There is a idiom in Hindi that the person, a traveler, sold his horse thinking that I am fed up of traveling. I don't want to do even more travel. He sold his horse and went for sleeping, because that idiom, that experience, that story has become some sort of a saying in Hindi, that somebody, without any botheration, without any worries, if he's sleeping, he is told to have sold his horses and gone to sleep. So that is the usage which I told in Hindi to Joy. So what
Nice.
happens is that when we are doing that in our waking, where we are not bothered about anything about whether they are there or not, is not even being acknowledged by us. We are immersed in our peace and happiness within the bosom of our own being. That has to happen only if you can start moving away from all those things which you are acknowledging from the world outside. Whether it is important, not important, whether you are attached to it, not attached to it, all of them are to be treated equally. This is what the Bhagavad Gita second chapter, Krishna also told toward the end. How the sense organs and the sense, can take away even a Sthita Prajna, a person who is with knowledge, into the world of samsara again, because he starts speaking sangat samjayade kama, kamat krodho vijayade, krodhat bhavati sammoha, sammoha smriti bhramsha, smriti bhramshat buddhinasha, buddhinashat pranasyati. That verse number 62 and 63 of Bhagavad Gita is only talking about from this point of view.
Yeah, nice, Bindoji. The घोड़े बेच के जाग रहा है. And it's always good to be reminded, and that's the reason for asking, so that it kind of reinforces it. एक चीज मैंने देखा है कि, even if I'm for 1 second, let's say, standing in a balcony, it's just like seeing the diversity. I don't know, there's a kind of niceness in that as well. Like, I don't know, it's like, it kind of felt like, yes, all the joys within, but even looking at everything, I mean, is that also something that you would say one should sort of move away from? But I mean,
Yes.
that's on a lighter.
But that is only because there is no investment for you in what you are seeing at that time. They are just there. That's all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Namaste, Shelshi.
Hello, am I
Yes.
audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Namaste, Binduji and Prakashji
Namaste.
and everyone. My question is, I usually spiritual gurus say that when you have uh, when anything wrong happens to you or anybody else, it is just karma coming back to you. So um, you don't have to react for everything. But in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna ji says whatever is happening, I'm only doing that. So all those things. So now I'm confused that at what point we have to take action. Like if something bad is happening, if somebody is doing bad to us, or something bad is happening to someone else. So when should we act? Should we take everything as it's karma, and we have to be silent as much as possible, or patient, calm inside us, or how should, like, it is a very confusing thing I always have. So I want to know that
So,
what Bhagavad Gita
yeah,
says. Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita handles it in multiple ways. If you are in the gross stage of Karma Yoga, there is karma, and karma will have its own consequences, which we call it as karma phala, or the fruits of action. But how can the fruits of action not touch you? Is only when you are surrendering the fruits of action to a higher authority or higher pedestal or something whom you want to dedicate to. When you do that, you know very well that you are not expecting the result from your point of view. Now, the question of good and bad, which you are talking about, is based because you have already developed a decision based on the things which are happening. If this way it happens, it is good. If this way it doesn't happen, it is bad. So you have already got an investment in the action and the reaction. This is the reason why we are suffering from good and bad. We are suffering for good also, actually speaking. But since it meets our expectation, we feel it is good. And what we doesn't meet expectation, we feel it as bad. Why do you want to have the differentiation between good and bad? Action will have a reaction. Now, whatever you have done in the past, if it is coming as a reaction, how do you know? How will you link it is between your past action and that has got a link? You have no idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Krishna himself says, Gahana Karmana Gati. The path of the karma or the route in which karma is acting is utterly mysterious. He himself says that. So, if somebody is saying that it is your past karma which is coming back is only to give you a solace or your mind to be answered by a question which even Krishna, when he doesn't know how the karma is acting, how will a guru or a teacher know it is your previous karma which is coming back and you should do that? We cannot say. Nobody can say that. Right?
Yes.
So the
Very good.
best way to do certain thing is that stop seeing good and bad. We are seeing good and bad because we expect things. Things will happen whether you like it or not. Because that is the nature in which the world is functioning. How we
Then
react to that is only what we have in control of ours. But our
then
reactions
generally,
we do, just a minute, when our reactions we do is it based on whether it is good or bad, then our reactions will be based on that assessment of good or bad. When we do not have that evaluation of good or bad, our reaction will be neutral. Whether good happens or bad happens, this is what is possible for me to do, and I will do that way. Now you ask your question. What you were asking, going to ask?
Binduji, like if I start seeing things like just an action and I don't classify it as good or bad, then does it mean that I choose to keep quiet, or I should be quiet and
No,
let God handle those things?
no. You have a duty for your own safety, your own being, your own knowledge, your own living. What is conducive for your, not selfishness. See, the difference between self-centeredness or self towards self-it and selfishness is that when you are selfish, you are hurting somebody, you are stealing from somebody. That is the action of a selfish person. But when you are protecting yourself, or when you are learning, you want learning something from the process, or you want to avoid a confrontation, all these activities are, you are protecting yourself, which is larger in the body. So when you are doing that, if you are not hurting anybody, or you are not stealing from somebody, or, whether he has an expectation, he or she has an expectation or not, is not your problem. That is their problem. From your point of view, you can be neutral or you can be withdrawn from that. Because protecting your true nature or protecting your body and the self is not a selfish act. That is what Krishna also tells in the Bhagavad Gita. We will see that in the 3, 4 and 5 chapters.
So there also there will be a sense of right and wrong, isn't it, Binduji? Like if,
No.
for example,
How can there be right and wrong?
is self-respect comes under dharma or not, Binduji?
Self-respect is not ego. Self-respect is you are giving due right for your own self, what it is. Acknowledging there is a self in you is self-respect. But self-respect becomes a demand that I should be appreciated, or I should be given respect, or I should be treated separately. Then that is not a self-respect. It is a imposition of your demands on others.
And then Binduji, in Mahabharata, if, when people Pandavas have their own self-respect, then what Kauravas are doing, it is up to them, right? Why there should be a war? Like why I'm getting confused is I'm understanding what you are saying, but Krishna also had a point where he had to do the war, right? He has to do this Mahabharata. So what it says about when should we act?
See, when somebody is not giving you the self-respect or the existence to survival, you have this, what you call self-protection as your right, dharma. That is why in self-defense, if somebody kills somebody also, another person, it is not punished under law by any country. It is a self-protection. You are protecting yourself. So there is something called Swadharme Nididam Shreya Paradharmo Vayavaha. That statement will come from Krishna. You have your own dharma, but don't do the dharma of others, thinking that is your dharma. That is the most dangerous thing. So same way, I was telling you, somebody was, in fact, in the beginning of the clubhouse, there was a room where I think some people, I don't know, some people who may who are not there here, they were there. They were talking about an incident in a bus stand in Bombay. There were people standing there, two girls who wanted to take an auto rickshaw. Suddenly, an auto rickshaw with 2-3 boys came and started harassing them. One man interfered and tried to stop them, harassing the girl. That man was murdered by these 3 boys who came to harass the girls. So the question came, by protecting the girls, did he do the dharma? This was asked to me, this question in the clubhouse. By protecting this, did he do his dharma, or why did he have to get killed in that situation? So my answer was very simple to the people. Instead of the 3 boys coming to harass, what would have everyone done if a lion jumped out of a cage of a truck which was passing by and attacking the girls? Will they run away from that place, or will they attack the lion, or will they try to protect themselves? What
They'll
is
run
your
away.
answer? They'll run away. Now, in a given situation, your duty is to first and foremost to protect yourself. Only if you are alive and safe, you can perform anything after that. But you have to do an evaluation of the situation. By involving in the thinking in the name that you are a Messiah or a person who can go and help others, but you know it is suicidal for you, not even Krishna will tell you to go and do that. Had the war been such a situation where Krishna knew that Arjuna will be killed by the Kauravas, he would not have advised Arjuna to go and fight the war. Krishna knew that Arjuna has the capacity to win the war. That is the reason why he could tell that he is not walking into a suicidal war, but a war where he is going to win. So these are all that is why evaluation of moral values, dharma, everything is a very tricky statement. All examples are not equally applicable to all the cases. We have to take situations based on the right understanding of the total picture. Then only we can say that we are in a position to control. And how will we know the total picture? Only we have the knowledge. That is only way we can be effective in the world.
But how can we know that that we have the complete knowledge of what our dharma is?
What you have, do you know it by somebody telling that what you have, or you know it yourself?
I know what I have, but is it enough
Yes.
or not?
In knowledge is also like that only. You will know whether you have the right knowledge or not in any given situation. If you do not have the knowledge, you will be in doubt. And when you do not have doubt, means you have the knowledge. But if you have misapprehension or the wrong knowledge, then if you think that you have the knowledge, then it will be suicidal.
To be honest, it is very complicated, Bindu.
It is complicated because we do not enter into a situation with all knowledge. That is why it is becoming complicated. So best thing is take life one day at a time and one moment at a time. This moment, what is to be done, that is what is you have to do, think and worry about it. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
Because Krishna ji also says this, that do your karma and don't worry about the result.
Yes.
So yeah, thank you, Bindu ji. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Shelshi. What is your real name? Okay. If you don't want to tell, fine. Thank you.
Binduji, you
Did you
said
ask something?
about doing your duty.
No,
Not
Shelshi,
He
I
said,
asked you what is your real name.
my
That's
name
it.
is
If you
Geeta
want,
Bindu ji.
thank you, Gita.
Thank you so much, Bindu ji. Thank you so much.
Yes, Joy. What were you asking?
yeah, you were saying about doing your duty. So sometimes, as you also said, it's not very simple. It's not as simple as that, right? Now, if this
Yeah.
person who's being not even physically attacked, let's say being almost to the point of being physically attacked, shouted, whatever. Now, if this is a family member and you are in the home, then the I definition extends to the family, let's say, right? And when you say about knowing everything, now when people talk about, say, these two people had past karmas with each other, there's no way for you to know any of that. But it does become a little unclear and ambiguous, because now in retrospect we can hear this and feel ki then if somebody was shouting at somebody and somebody's crying and saying this one is shouting or hitting, then maybe you should have remained, not done anything. But I mean, but then again, that is to me selfish still. So, I mean, and also you talk about hurting someone. So if in the name of protecting, you say you protect yourself, but don't hurt the other one. And of course, emotionally, of course, they will be hurt, and then they will do things that will again compromise your protection. So if the point is to not hurt someone, okay, that, to me that is still hurting them, but you say that that is in their perception, leaving that aside and protecting yourself. So if you're protecting yourself against someone by taking the right steps, will cause them to do things that will, again, you will be needing protection from that. So both these things are kind of there.
You have to take the decision based on the complete picture, in the sense that what are the possible outcomes? What are the pros and cons? And then when you have the picture total, the simple thing is that without hurting others, if you can find a solution, do that. If you have to hurt somebody, but at the same time, that person which is getting hurt is not going to be reactive or abusive to you, best thing is to keep quiet. Because there is no point in reacting to a person who can further hurt you. So to avoid hurting oneself is the best way to proceed further. So keep quiet or move away from such a place. That's all we can do.
Yeah, the second point you said is more clear. The first, of course, is not, as cut and dry, right? As far as you said, knowing everything, knowing the consequences. So I gave the example, right, of somebody is being shouted at and they're crying, they're saying, someone's hitting me. And as a normal, I don't know, to me that was normal, whether you want to call it now compassion or something, but it would have not been normal to let somebody just be there and cry. It wouldn't have even occurred to me to do that. So, but now you can say that that was somebody else's karma. But like I said, it's not somebody on the street, on the road, and you said getting involved in that. Now, of course, it was a Hindi movie, then, even शेर होगा तो कोई जाएगा बचाने. तो वो अलग बात है.
पिक्चर
But
नहीं है.
हाँ, तो आपके घर में अगर कोई कुछ बोल रहा है, आपके घर आपके
That is because you extended you
yes,
to your house with your mamata, your mama, the thing me and mine. So when you extend that, you are now inviting a relationship to be affected. But at the same time, आपका घर में हो रहा है, it's happening in your house, and you can be a neutral in giving a reply, yet showing the sympathy in the reply in such a way that you are understanding the situation. You are not taking the side of anyone, either the abuser or the one who is crying. But at the same time, evaluate and tell the situation that you could have not been in a situation had you handled it a better way, if you know the total picture. Otherwise, you can excuse yourself from this thing that unless I know the reason why he did like that and all those things, you have to give that and try to be away from that situation. I'm not talking about individual cases or everything, because that is not my forte, because I'm not in the situation or I have not foreseen that thing what is happening. But in generally, it's not that we should not show compassion or anything. Even to show compassion, you should not be falling into a prey of somebody's expectation. Because today your compassion will become the demand from the other person, because the compassion which you are shown should not become a liability on your side. So such a places, even to show compassion is dangerous.
But Binduji, these things can only be talked about in retrospect, right? I mean,
Everything is retrospect only, because all examples are retrospective only.
but in the
Because there
moment,
is the momentary thing, you are the best judge at the moment, because you are the person who is going to face it. How will you be better off to handle such a situation is what we are learning from Bhagavad Gita.
which you said, like, if you see the reason, now you can see the reason, X is getting angry, is always having a temper, and they do react. And so now why is crying and saying all this? There has been history to that. You've seen it to some extent.
That
Then
is
what do you
exactly joy.
do?
That is exactly joy I'm saying. You know the history. There is a repeated abuser, a repeated, person who is suffering that. And if it is going to repeat even after you knowing it, why do you want to interfere in it? Unless you are associating yourself that it's mera family, it's my family, so I need to do something. There you are investing yourself into that relationship as, my, me, I. That ego aspect is what is playing their demand from you to show, to react. Nowhere you should,
आपके घर में आपके
nowhere,
सामने आपके बच्चों को कोई कुछ बोल रहा है, आप कुछ नहीं
even
करोगे?
even my wife or daughter or anybody is getting into a situation between my wife and my daughter, if they are arguing and fighting, I don't interfere. I just keep quiet. Because it is with them to decide. My involving will involve me also, then it will be a tripartite problem. Why should I want to get involved in it?
That's
They
very
started,
clear. Yeah.
they started it, they have to end it. And sometimes they scold me. Both of them will scold me also, saying that you are sitting there like a doll, not even talking or taking side. I said, I will not utter a word. Because both of you started, sort it out between you two.
But Binduji, I'll just leave it at this, that this was a different matter where somebody is specifically coming up to you separately and asking you for help, that somebody is hitting me or somebody is this thing me and I'm crying, I cannot take it. That is a different matter. And plus you have seen that behavior for a while. But it wasn't like I got up and I went there to get involved. But to me, that would be a little inhuman or a little cold if I was to be saying that, okay, I should just be thinking only about myself
If,
or
if,
something like
if,
that. But
if
that's
such
how
a
it is.
situation arises, Joy, you should make the person who has come to you to walk along with your logical reasoning, what you are learning from Bhagavad Gita. How did it happen? Why did it happen? Where did it? How much is that? All those things when you keep asking, instead of you taking a role of a person, association, and then giving direction, don't do that. Make them do their own choice of decision, action. You be a instrument, like Krishna says, Nimitta matram bhava sabhyasajin. Arjuna, you are only an instrument for the war. The war is already happening. All you have to do is take the bow and this thing. Same way, you be an instrument there to make the other person think logically, analyze the problem, and come to a solution. And helping them in that way, you are not investing with yourself into that, but you are helping them for a closure of the problem by making a logical thinking based on your firmness with which you, if you were what you will be doing, you have to make the other person think that way.
And today we can see people taking a wrong stand, being influenced by someone and standing up and maybe troubling us based on something which is not true at all. But I mean, what are we, do we have a role over there? Because they are taking on a role which was not theirs. And they are believing somebody with no authority, just believing their words, right? So, like you said, you're supposed to take care of yourself. Then
it is best thing is Joy. Nobody would like to remain in the center of a fire. The moment the fire is around, the person will try to run away from that place. All issues in life is like that. If you get more and more involved, it's a quagmire where you will get drowned at the end of it. Best thing is to stay like a lotus leaf in water. Patma patram ivambasa. Don't be attached. Don't allow things to influence you. Be in the world, but untouched by the world.
right, so a role would be kind of to ignore or sort of just to be aware
Right.
of this. And thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
But Binduji, there is something called empathy, right?
Empathy is coming from where? Where is the source of empathy? Gita, you didn't tell me that. The source of empathy is where? You are thinking or you are answering? Okay.
Neutral empathy भी होती है बिंदु जी with people you don't
Empathy
know.
neutral नहीं होता है.
नहीं, यूजुअली तो नहीं होता है, बट कभी कभी होता भी है. आप किसी को जानते भी नहीं हो. नथिंग इज नोन टू यू ऑल्सो. कोई गिर रहा है सड़क पे, आप जाके हाथ दे भी सकते हो उनको उठाने के लिए. दैट्स अबाउट.
That is not empathy. That is just you are being an instrument for that person to stand up. That's all. Don't invest yourself in anything. That's all I have to say. If you get the feeling that, oh, I helped somebody who fallen on the road, I made him stand up, that ego should not happen in you. But you can be an instrument for somebody to wake up. You don't even remember it. The famous story, a guru and 3 shishyas, they were crossing the river. They found one young girl wanting to cross the river, waiting on the shore. So she asked the group whether can I come along with you to cross, hold the hand so that it was not a very deep river, small water to cross. But I am scared, I don't know swimming, can you cross me? So the guru held the hand of that young girl and they crossed the river and went to the other side. And they went to the respective place, this thing, and the Gurukula, they were sitting and everything. So one student asked, so why did you were always studying that, we should be away from all temptation, from this thing, you should not look at women and all those things you were saying. But you only, Guru, you only caught hold of a hand of that girl and they crossed the water, the river, and came this side. The Guru said, oh, when I left the hand of the girl, I forgot about the girl also. I was only an instrument in making her cross the river. But you are still carrying her on your mind. That is why your problem is there. Its problem is yours. You understood what is the difference between the two?
Yes, yes, yes. We grew up from these stories. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, Prakash. Can we call it a day?
Sure, Bindoji. Thank you. Thank you again for taking us deep into these emotional corner houses of our space. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And yes, go ahead, Bindoji.
Yeah.
You can close it. Yes.
Thank you, Prakash. Thank you, Srini. Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Celsia, for asking the questions. We'll have Sunday open house, general questions. And Monday we will start the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Thank you. Hari Om. Good night.
Good night. Hari Om.